Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And that means I have the best job ever. I help people like you connect with their angels, open to the magic in your soul, and really connect with your authentic truth and divine guidance. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes. So tomorrow when you're awake, I invite you to visit my website at illuminatingsouls.com, where you can learn more about what I do and how I can be of service. I also have a Facebook page of the same name where I post daily messages there. So lots of ways for us to connect. But for now, this is time for you to rest. And I always feel that when it is time to drift off, that this is a sacred time. You know, sleep is a bit of a mystery. It's not that scientists don't understand the cycle of sleep, but for most of us individually, it is this vast expanse where we may have some dreams, but for much of it, we do not recall what is happening. But it is a time of deep replenishment and healing. It's a time when our bodies restore. It's also a time for our consciousness to reset. It's my belief also that this is when we drift off into the astral realm, which is the place of expanded consciousness. And the greater part of us is also replenished and inspired. So I love sleep. I love the ritual of getting ready for bed. I've shared with you before that I tend to go to bed early. It's so weird to me that as I get older, my bedtime gets earlier. I'm typically in bed by 8 or 8:30. If I'm up past 9, I say to my husband, "Oh, I'm having a wild night here." And I just love that period of time when I crawl in bed and I get cozy and I pick a sleep podcast to listen to, because as you know, I have been using sleep podcasts for many years as part of my self-care. And I had a friend ask me recently how I do this, what my ritual is, and I thought I would share that with you. So I have an iPhone, and I use the wired earphones from Apple. And I put my earphones in, and it doesn't bother me to sleep with them. And at some point in the night, they fall out. And I also use the timer on the podcast app so that the podcast stops playing after the episode is finished. So typically I choose episodes that are somewhere around an hour, and then they turn off. So by the time I wake up in the morning, the earbuds are somewhere in my bed. And I'm well rested. And I so appreciate all the creators who came before me in making these sleep podcasts because they have really added to my well-being. And this is why I create this podcast for you. It truly is a blessing to be a part of your rituals around your restfulness. And I really hope you get a good night's rest or a good day's rest, whatever time of day it is. And the angels are already here. I feel their love coming through. And if you're new to the concept of angels, I know you've heard of them before, but in this context that we are working with them, or they are working with us, angels are divine, wise beings. They are celestial and are the embodiment of unconditional love. Your angels have known you since before you were born. And in the way that I work with the angels in my belief structure is that this relationship with our angels is deeply intimate. It's not just an abstract, angelic concept. These are beings of light who know you and love you, who understand all you are moving through. That there is no part of you that is unloved or judged or criticized. Your angels are here to help you learn to love yourself. And that's not always easy. And they are here to help you open to your soul's path and to feel loved as you navigate this life. So I invite you to take a deep breath in and out. And I know you breathe all the time. You do not need me to remind you to breathe. And yet, deep, intentional breath really helps us to clear our energy, especially as we're getting ready to make that shift from wakefulness to sleep. So I invite you to take another nice deep breath in and out, and to let your body relax and let go. You have done enough for this day. And there's nothing you need to now. You can just be present in the love of your angels and the sound of my voice as we collectively bring to you light and love that has been calibrated just for you. You might wonder how that's possible, but we don't need to know. I don't know how this works exactly. It's not as if MIT can measure these waves of love. But what I do know is somehow, when I transmit these broadcasts, the angels calibrate what you receive to support you. Because each of us is a unique being. We are in our own place of experience right now. And what I might need from this broadcast might be different than what you need. So if you're working with something and you could use some waves of forgiveness, or if parts of your body feel tired or tight, the angels will calibrate this energy for you. So you take a breath in and know that the angels know your heart. They know what you need. And you can also direct them. You can ask. Always feel free to ask your angels for help. And let them know how they can support you. And it doesn't have to be formal. It can be, hey angels, can you help me with, and then fill in the blank. They can help you make shifts in consciousness. They can help seed you with sparks of inspiration. They can help you clear the things that are worrying you or feel challenging at the moment. The angels and God are highly creative in how they can support us. And we open that gateway by asking for help. Because this is a realm of free will. You have free will. And when we ask for support, it opens a portal for the angels to be of loving service. And don't worry, you are not taking them away from something more important, because this is a realm of abundance. And there's more than enough of divine love to take care of every molecule of life in this realm and in this universe. So you take a deep breath in, you snuggle on up and cozy on in. And just sigh into your body. And while you do so, I'm going to call in the angels who are already here. But I love the ritual of calling them in. So beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I am so deeply grateful for an opportunity to come together in the loving, to support each of the beloveds who are here right now listening to this message. Angels, I ask that you bring blessings to them, that you pave their way with light, with healing, with serendipity, and with beauty. Help them open to the magic that dwells within them. May they find grace in every breath. May they find their soul friends, their soul family, their spiritual community, their heart community, so that they feel deeply loved and witnessed and cherished in this life. And angels, please help clear away any outmoded paradigms that would have any of us feel stuck where we no longer wish to be, especially if this is in service to our highest and best good. Help clear our energy fields through the heart of God, so that it becomes easier to breathe in the truth of who we are as divine beings in human form. And angels, we thank you for this opportunity to deepen in our own hearts. And as we do so, we feel the gratitude that you have for each one of us. So dear ones, just take a deep breath in and allow your angels to love you. And just notice what that brings up for you. Very intentional invitation. Allow your angels to love you. Are you comfortable with this, or do you feel as if you have to somehow earn this or be worthy of it? As we've talked about before, I want you to begin thinking of divine love as more like the sun. It is available. So if I were to say to you, allow yourself to be warmed by the sun, would that be easy for you to receive, assuming you have the right SPF and all that jazz? And so come into that loving neutrality about allowing yourself to receive the love of your angels. Let it warm you. Let it nurture you. You see, this form of love, it is our very essence. It is the vibration of home. And as we connect with it, it stokes our internal fire in the best way possible. It helps us remember who we are. It helps to infuse hope and purpose onto our paths. And just take a deep breath in. You are so very precious in this world. Truly you are. And you might wonder how I know this if we haven't yet met. But it is because I feel your heart. It's part of being an empath and an intuitive. That if you are guided to listen to a podcast like this one, there are things I can feel about you. That you are someone who values the commodity of love. Not everybody does, but you do. Otherwise we wouldn't be here together. That you are one who feels deeply in your heart. That you are likely an empath, meaning you feel the world emotionally. And that you would like to seed brighter tomorrows. And so just breathe and release. You know, when I record these episodes, I never quite know where we're going to go. I don't have a script. I sort of know what I'm going to read or tell a story about, but this part with the angels, I don't know where we're going to go usually. So they just dropped in an interesting question. The question is, if you were one of those who won one of those extraordinary sums in the lottery, you know, $400 million or pounds or whatever your currency is, whatever that astonishing amount of money would be, that would give you the freedom to do whatever you wanted, what would you do? So there's the prerequisite that you would pay off your bills, right? And maybe buy a beautiful house and maybe pay off the bills and buy houses for people you love. So let's just assume all of that is done in the education funds. And then what would you want to do? I'll tell you why the angels bring this forward. Keep going down the rabbit hole of that question, and at some point you will find your inner philanthropist. Right? A philanthropist is someone who has wealth and resources to make a difference in the lives of others. I'm quite certain that somewhere down this rabbit hole of fantasy, you would find a way to be of loving service with your wealth. We bring this forward to remind you that you are already a vibrational philanthropist. Isn't that cool? Already you bring prayers and love and kindness, and perhaps you even volunteer or of service, or your career is one that is of service. However you show up, I affirm you are already a vibrational philanthropist, and you give generously of your heart and soul. You help tend to those you love. You are likely way better at giving than you are receiving. I think that's true for most of us who are light bearers in this world. You are a generous soul. And this is why the angels bring forward the invitation to fantasize about what you would do with an absurd amount of money, because it will help you awaken to the generosity of your true spirit. Right? Would you start schools? Would you invest in infrastructure? How would you be of loving service? Because you are already a vibrational loving service. So just breathe. And as you follow these lines of energy, allow them to inspire your heart. Allow yourself to open to the generosity of your spirit, the brightness of your truth. You see, you are already of loving service in this world. Every prayer you utter, every time you hold someone with empathy in your heart, every time you hold for the wholeness and the dignity of another, you are a vibrational philanthropist. You are giving. You are supporting. And you are making a difference in the vibrational universe. Every life has a ripple. On this earthly realm, quite often we judge based on the ripple in the physical dimension, because that can be easily quantified. But dear ones, never underestimate the ripple we create in the emotional and spiritual realms as well. Because every day you are planting seeds of goodness. If you hold the door open for another, have you had done that door dance with someone? Yes. Where the two of you two strangers, you rush for the door at the same time, so the one who gets there first can hold the door open for another. It is such a pedestrian, mundane act of kindness. But I will tell you, every time I experience it, it makes me smile. Right, that simple moment of grace. That innocuous dance that I do with another. And when they get to the door first, how I receive it from them. And sometimes there's a little bit of guilt that I'm receiving it, which just is my own issue. Maybe it's yours too. And then you acknowledge each other for a brief moment and you say thank you. And then that moment is complete. But both of your lives, vibrationally, have been made richer, even if it is just for those 15 seconds of exchange of energy. So this is your gentle reminder that you are already a philanthropist. You open doors for people. literally and figuratively. You're kind. You smile. You say good morning. You know, I didn't always know you could say good morning to strangers. Isn't that weird? I used to go hiking with a friend. It's a whole other story, which I won't get into just yet. And in the early mornings, as we would go up the trail together, and someone would be walking the other way down the trail, I would put my head down, because that's what we always did in the city. We didn't acknowledge each other. And he would open up and he would say, good morning. And the other people would look up and say, good morning. And it was this epiphany for me. I was like, you mean we have permission to say good morning to strangers? That sounds so weird. And I was in my, late 30s at this point, and I had grown up in urban areas where we just would walk past each other, respecting people's personal spaces. And my friend's giant, big-hearted good morning to other people, and then they would respond, was just this glorious revelation for me. And so now when I go walking through my neighborhood and I pass someone, I say, hello, good afternoon, good morning. I am sensitive to the time of day, and I will shift my salutation depending on what time of day it is, but it's this beautiful dance we get to do with other people, where we acknowledge them and we share that momentary love, and it makes us richer, and them too. So take a breath in, and you drift off, you beautiful vibrational philanthropist, you. You drift off into the dream of wealth and riches and love and ripples of goodness, because you are a blessing in this world. And while you do, your angels will watch over you. And I'm going to read to you for a little while. So tonight what we're going to do is I am going to wander through some old magazines with you. I love antiquarian publications. There's something that is so fascinating about reading about history when it was current events. And I'm going to start off by reading to you about a house that is for sale in 1912 that has me absolutely mesmerized. So I first read about this house in an issue of a Country Life magazine, and I was so enchanted by it, I tried to see if I could find out more information about it. And I can't, so I don't have a really good story for you about. And then it became this, and this is where you can see pictures. I don't know anything about it other than this ad. But it led me to another ad for the same house sale in a different magazine, which is Harper's Monthly from 1912. So let me first read to you this ad. So there's a big headline that says, a city home, Metropolitan District residence. A beautiful, modern 18-room residence, detached, considered the prettiest residence in the state. Some call it the birdcage residence. And a bird just chirped. I swear that just happened if you can't hear it. A bird outside just chirped. With capacious, I've never heard this word before, but I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, forgive me. I'm assuming this means big or beautiful. A capacious chauffeur's and coachman's house, auto or coach house, and stabling for 10 horses, overlooking lower New York City and the Brooklyn Bridge and New York Bay, on Jersey City Heights. 25 minutes via tube or tunnel to Hudson Terminal, corner of Church and Cortlandt, downtown in New York, or 35 minutes to 33rd Street, or 20 minutes by auto and ferry. On important election nights, results can be seen from this property by means of colored lights on prominent newspaper buildings in New York. The two properties are on a corner. The residence, a beautiful 18-room frame residence, 7-foot dry cellar under the entire house and extension, gas and electric light, hot water heated, also hot air heating for fall and spring, large parlor and billiard room, 2 baths, sits and shower bath, servants and maid rooms, bath and water closet separate, hardwood parquet floors throughout, 4 separate lavatories conveniently distributed, every modern convenience, all in good repair. The chauffeur's and coachman's house is 24 by 135 feet, 4 floors front, 2 back. The first floor carriage and auto entrance has office, closets, and wash floor. Back of this, 25 by 75 to 80 feet floor space for auto or carriages. The extension has 2 box and 6 single stalls, cement floors and drains, fancy iron and yellow pine fixings and trimmings, all of first floor in yellow pine trimming. The 3 floors above are the tenants' 12 rooms, second story overextension for hay, feed, and storage, with elevator, electric light and gas, and hot water heat throughout the building. This is one of the handsomest and most unique buildings of its kind in the state. Views of the property on application. Price of the whole property is $65,000. To a cash buyer, 1/3 can remain on mortgages. Sold separately, the residence and 4 city lots, $40,000. The coach or garage house and 3 city lots is $25,000. And this is in Jersey City, New Jersey. When I read this, the thought that it was one of the prettiest residences and thought of as the birdcage residence, I tried to find it because I thought I would love to see it, but I couldn't find anything about it. For those of you who are listening outside of the United States, for instance, if you're in Europe or the Middle East or somewhere else, history goes back hundreds of years. But the urbanization of the U.S. is fairly recent. So it fascinates me that during the time, for instance, when my grandparents were alive, there were still large expanses of land near urban areas that had not yet been developed, so that you could buy acres in New Jersey or New York or Long Island. I'm fascinated by that. And I'll share with you that this came out of Harper's Magazine. And this is a little antiquarian tip for you. So Harper's Magazine would put out a bound edition containing about 6 months of their magazines and publish it as a book that I'm assuming was widely read, because to this day you can buy copies of it on eBay for less than $20. I was just looking on eBay, and you can buy a bound Harper's monthly, so it's about 1,000 pages, from 1854 for less than $20. So you can buy a book that's 160 years old for very inexpensively. And many years ago, I started buying some of them. I don't have a lot. I think I may have, 10 of them. And I'm fascinated reading them because it's really different reading about an era through a history book where all the dots are connected versus reading about something when it's current events. What was the mindset then? How were things talked about? So if any of you are looking for something super cool, especially if you have kids and you want to share with them a piece of history, you can go to eBay and look for Harper's Monthly, and you will easily find opportunities to buy volumes of it for less than $20. So that's pretty cool. So now we're going to move on to reading about other properties that are listed in Country Life in America, a magazine for the homemaker in the country. And this is a volume that ranges from November 1912 to April 1913. And we're going to read about more homes. So, this ad says fall bargains in beautiful high northern New Jersey, all within commuting distance of New York via Lackawanna, 3/4 to 3 miles from the station. Listen to this one, 350 acres. That's a lot of land, 350 acres. Real country estate on lake. 3 sets of buildings, 100 tillable acres, 1,000 feet mountain, magnificent layout, $18,000, which I know was a lot of money back then, but even so, to be able to purchase 350 acres in an area that is now more developed is so cool. Here's another one, 37 acres. 10-room stone house built in 1750, 22-inch walls, exceptional quality of land, none like it. Owner anxious to sell at $15,000. House and 5 acres for $8,000. Another ad, 64 acres, magnificent view, 826 feet elevation, 8-room house, northern slope, 45 acres tillable, $5,500. And these are all part of the same real estate ad. So these are all in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. 100 acres, up to the minute farm, house of 8 rooms and 7-room tenant house, crops, stock, etc., $20,000. I just find these all so interesting. Now, this ad is for Virginia Country Homes, one of the finest stock farms and most beautiful homes in the state. 920 acres of highly cultivated land, well fenced, splendidly watered, and abundant timber. Brick dwelling, modern equipment, barns, stables, and mill. Everything in perfect condition. Climatic, social, and educational advantages decided. Export cattle, 60 bushels of corn, and 23 bushels of wheat to the acre raised on this farm. Genuine bluegrass land. This property is of positive merit. Price $125,000. Here's one in Cape Cod. Price is $12,000. It actually cost over $35,000. The greatest bargain on Cape Cod. Estate is comprised of 18 acres of high land partly cultivated with vegetable and flower gardens. Balance is magnificent pine woods. Mansion house with 6 chambers and bath with space on the 3rd floor for 5 more chambers. Fine cellar with furnace. Electricity now available. gardener's cottage and large stable, all located directly on shore of large and very beautiful inland bay with unsurpassed view of the ocean. And now there's an ad for Berkshire Hills Real Estate. And I just want to know, am I the only one who can't get past Berkshire without singing the James Taylor song, The Berkshires Seem Dreamlike, on account of their frosting? Just every time I see that, that song just moves through my head. And I found this other interesting article in here talking about the choice of a suburban home. So if you were time traveling back to 1912, this is what you would need to know. Not far out of New York City, one can see from the railroad train a row of rickety signposts standing upright in a big field. They were driven into the ground many years ago to mark the proposed avenues of a tract selected as ideal for suburban homes. Not a house is on the tract. Not even a road has been cut through the premises. Tall grass and weeds cover the ground that at one time real estate promoters had intended to be developed into an alluring suburban settlement. The project was launched more than 20 years ago. Though a greater part of the land was sold to prospective home seekers, it has remained barren of houses because the whole scheme was poorly planned and was never suitable as a suburban home site, and hence was doomed to be a failure from the beginning. The surviving members of this proposed suburban town must have air of this regretted the realty bargains they secured. To select a desirable suburban home is not a difficult task, nor was it 20 years ago. But 5 out of 10 people pay dearly for their experience because their idea as to what or is will be an alluring suburban place for a home are formed from looking at realty affairs from the wrong point of view. If the land offered as home sites pleases their eye and is within what they call a short ride of the city, if the house on the plot meets their needs and the terms of the sale are acceptable to them, the chances are that they will look no further. The ideal suburban place should be within easy reach of the city at all hours of the day, from 6 a.m. until midnight. The house should not be many minutes' walk from the railroad station, unless the value of land and house increase the nearer they are to a shorefront, to a lake, or to some part of the town such as more attractive than other parts. There should be perfectly laid out streets, a good sewer and water main system linked with the sewer and water systems of the town, or which are maintained by a corporation financially strong. The land should be dry and not near marshy tracts, and the house should be commodious, well built, and at least 30 feet from the avenue or road in front of it. The title to the land and house should also be guaranteed, and the premises should be part of a tract carefully restricted for use as a residential section. One of the principal restrictions, which should be uniform over the whole tract, should clearly specify the type of buildings that may be built and the minimum cost of the cottages and outbuildings that may be erected. The life of the restrictions should be at least 21 years, with an expressed agreement that at the end of that period, a 2/3 vote of the property owners shall decide the question as to whether or not they be continued in effect. Not only do such restrictions preserve the realty value of the land, but tend to the quickening of values. If the restrictions are not clearly and concisely set forth in the deeds conveying title, they may be easily broken. Anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting. I guess a lot of people were buying houses and then they couldn't live in them, or they were never developed. Okay, and then I have to share this ad for you. It's for a car. A white town car built particularly for women. I wonder what we needed different. So, the white 40 Coupe is the Pioneer Woman's gasoline car. To the woman who drives, it offers the touring radius and flexible speed of the gasoline roadster, combined with the comfort, safety, and ease of operation of the electric Brougham. The left side drive admits of easy access to the driving wheel from the curb. The white electrical starter, positive under all conditions, not only is operated by one simple motion from the seat, but also renders impossible the inconvenience of the engine being accidentally stalled. The lighting of the car, electric throughout, is likewise controlled from the driving seat. The first of its kind, the white coupe is the recognition of women's demand for clean, safe motor carriage for town and suburban use, having the grace, speed, and radius of travel which only a gasoline car can give. White coupes are built in 30, 40, and 60 horsepower models. The White Company, Cleveland. Interesting, huh? We didn't know we needed our own kind of car. And now we're back to some more homes for sale. So these are in Washington, D.C. One of the handsomest and most exclusive apartment houses situated in a fashionable district contains 7 apartments of 15 rooms each. Oh my God, that's a lot. A 15-room apartment, charmingly arranged and delightfully comfortable with every modern equipment. Rental incomes $14,000 per annum. Will submit an offer of $125,000. And then here's another one. Splendidly located apartment house, 12 apartments, every room an outside one. Closets and colonial porches, tiled baths. Income $6,200. $55,000 may buy this. Wow. A 15-room apartment. That's a lot. Here you go. If you're in Florida, Daytona, Florida, this property at 29 South Ridgewood Avenue in the center of the city for sale. Lot is 110 feet on avenue by 200 feet deep. The house is 10 rooms and a bath, city water, electric light, furnace, 3 fireplaces. Beautifully located on the most attractive natural avenue in the world. Price is $10,000. And then there are some interesting ads. The telephone and intercoms was just becoming a thing. So this is an ad. This is a Christmas issue. It says, what a splendid Christmas gift that would make. Western Electric interphones. So that's what we would call an intercom now. Exactly what your wife or your mother needs every day in the year. 2 perfect talking little telephones that operate simply by pushing a button. No more calling downstairs. Interphones means a quiet, well-ordered home. A modern convenience that lessens old-fashioned housekeeping drudgery. Less than $15 will buy 2 interphones as illustrated, including the necessary wire, batteries, etc. They are as easy to put up as a doorbell and cost no more to use. For other sensible Christmas gifts of everyday usefulness, choose Western Electric cooking utensils, vacuum cleaners, and other household help. Oh, the life of the housewife back then, huh? And here's an ad for the American Traveler Limousine. The American Traveler Limousine marks the ultimate enclosed car designing. Possessing distinctive colonial dignity and richness, a long sweeping wheelbase and large wheels, it is surpassed by no town or country closed car. The fact there is no other equipage like it, no other car in which it is expressed so emphatically that indefinable tone of refinement. And then there's an ad for the Packard 38. So here's just what I find so fascinating about going into the Wayback Machine. You know, I can remember where I grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago, that so much of the area was undeveloped that it wasn't uncommon to have empty lots. And I don't mean the empty lots that come out of urban decay. I mean the fields, yes, that hadn't yet been developed. The places where as kids, your parents would say, don't go there. And of course you had to go there because there was an adventure of some kind to be had. And so when I look back at these real estate ads for huge acreage in New Jersey or in Long Island or Connecticut, I'm just fascinated because so much of that has been built up now. Even here where we live in the Bay Area, I live not too far from Napa. And to see all of the development that is happening up and down the road that leads from here to Napa. There are new houses and apartments that are being built where there was once great expanses of open land. And that's what happens when a city is developed. So here's to having a bit of spaciousness, if that is what you desire. Here's to our memories. Here's to how places change as each generation comes and does what they do. You know, if you think back to 1912, the car was just becoming a thing that it wasn't unusual for an estate to have a carriage house that could house the automobile as well as horses. And the telephone was just starting to become a thing. And imagine how awesome that must have been to be able to hear the voice of a loved one who was further away, and how much the world changed. And it just is fascinating to me that my grandparents lived through that time. I remember when I was a little girl, I asked my grandmother if she had a horse when she was young. And she said yes. So my grandmother grew up in Denver, and her father had a store. And, you know, it wouldn't have been unusual at that time because there were no cars, that they had horses. And I had this great fantasy of what it would be like to have a horse. And to her, it was just a horse, right? It wasn't anything special, whereas in this day and age, to have a horse is a really remarkable experience. Back then, it was just your mode of transportation. So it's just so interesting to me how much the world has changed in such a short period of time. And I wonder if every lifetime feels that way. You know, if it feels as if we continue moving forward. If you think about, I think in my lifetime, people of my generation, give or take 20 years, we have experiences that the newer generation won't know, right? What it was like to stay home to wait for a phone call. I used to stay home, especially if a boy was involved. I would let the phone ring like 4 times. And then I would answer like I was out of breath. I was doing something. I was like, oh, hi, I just came in. Meanwhile, I'd been home for hours hoping the phone would ring. How life has changed. You know, that you could buy 100 acres in New Jersey. Or have these experiences that are no longer available to us. But back then it just seemed like life, right? Now we have cell phones and we have airplanes, and life has changed so much. So here we are, just reminiscing a little bit, like friends do. And maybe there's some memories that are showing up for you if you're not yet asleep. So I hope you have a good rest. And I hope your dreams are sweet. The angels will stay with you. So good night, beloved ones. I'm grateful for you. Thank you. And we'll talk again soon.